Chapter 2. The cold morning chill was in the air, but it wasn't too bitter. It was October, and the weather was right for the month. I walked through the darkness and arrived at Holling's house around 5 o'clock. He opened the door before I had a chance to knock. He must have been waiting on me. "Good morning, Eb. I'm glad you made it. Follow me." Holling turned on a flashlight and walked through the yard, and I followed. He kept on until we arrived at a cellar door at the rear of the house. Holling opened the door and stared down the narrow steps. "Come on down, Eb." There were 6 large paper bags lined up on the floor, and the tops of the bags were folded over. Holling picked up a couple of big canvas sacks and handed them to me. Holling said, "Eb, hold open one of those canvas sacks for me. I'll put 3 bags in one of the sacks and 3 in the other." I held open the sacks and Holling gently put the bags down inside. "What's in these paper bags?" I asked. Holling replied, "Butternut squash and apples. I grew them myself, and they are good. Now, grab a sack and let's get going." I stepped back and let Holling lead the way. We walked along by the light of Holling's flashlight and headed up the street. Soon we came upon a run-down little house. It actually looked more like a shack than a house. Holling lifted a paper bag out of the canvas sack and walked up to the front steps of the little house. He gently placed the bag on the top step and walked away. "That's mighty nice of you," I said. "I bet those people will sure appreciate it. But how will they know who gave them the apples and butternuts?" Holling replied, "They won't know, but it don't matter. Let's keep moving." We kept on, and Holling let me empty my sack on the next 3 houses. It felt good to deliver food to people, especially since the houses didn't look very wealthy. I figured that a good apple or a baked butternut squash would feel nice on a hungry stomach. Holling led the way to another house, but this house looked better than the other ones. Holling handed me a paper bag. "Eb, I want you to deliver this one. I'll go up with you." We walked up to the top step, but this time Holling kept on going. He went all the way to the front door and softly knocked. Holling smiled. "It's okay. I know this lady gets up early." The door opened, and there stood my teacher, Miss Blair. Her gray hair was down past her shoulders. I had never seen her hair down before. I wanted to turn around and run home. Holling spoke. "Good morning, Miss Blair. Eb has a little something for you." I stepped up and handed Miss Blair the paper bag. She looked inside the bag and grinned. "Well, thank you," said Miss Blair. "I'll have butternut squash and an apple pie for my supper this evening." Miss Blair gently wrapped her arms around me and gave me a soft hug. She said, "Eb, please don't leave school in the middle of the day again. You're a bright boy. You stay with me all day, and I'll make sure that you learn something." I dropped my head and looked down. Miss Blair continued, "You're a good boy, Eb. I look forward to seeing you Monday morning. Thanks again for the nice bag of goodies." Her words made me feel better, and I managed to smile. We went on our way with only 1 bag left. Holling said, "Sorry if I embarrassed you, but I thought it would help you get in good with your teacher. Anyway, I've left fruits and vegetables at her house before, and I think you can consider Miss Blair a friend too." "Thanks, Holling." We kept on until we got close to my house. Holling stopped walking and handed me the final bag. "Go ahead, Eb. Maybe your Nana Murdy will make an apple pie today, or maybe for a dessert after Sunday dinner." I walked up and placed the bag on our top step. Then I looked back at Holling. I wasn't sure what he wanted me to do next. "Come on, Eb. Let's go back to my house." We arrived at Holling's house and went inside. "Take a seat at the table, Eb. I'll have us a nice breakfast in no time." Holling took a basket outside and soon returned with fresh eggs from the nest boxes. He placed a cast iron pan on the wood stove and threw in some wood. Soon the fire was blazing. and the heat strongly filled the room. Holling picked up an egg with his left hand. He cracked the eggshell on the edge of the frying pan and dropped the egg in the pan. Then he did another and another, over and again. Each time the egg was cracked and dropped perfectly. I was amazed at how he did it all with only one hand. It was way better than I could have done with two hands. Holling scrambled the eggs in the pan until they were light and fluffy. He divided the eggs between us, and he gave me some apple cider to drink. Holling drank black coffee. The eggs were delicious, and so was the apple cider. "Thanks for the fine breakfast," I said. Holling returned. "You're welcome. Come outside. I want to show you some stuff." We walked outside, and the sun was up and bright. The colors of autumn were brilliant, and I liked it. Holling had some large pin oaks on one edge of his yard, and I could hear the blue jays clipping off the acorns to store. It sounded like someone using scissors, and it was part of the sounds of autumn. Holling led me behind his barn to an area that I hadn't seen before. It was an open area with no trees. There were rabbit cages standing in an area of timothy grass. There was also another cage, but this one was much bigger. Holling opened one of the rabbit cages, and the rabbit hopped to the open door. Holling gently rubbed the white rabbit on its head. "Go ahead, Eb. You can pet her." I rubbed the rabbit on top of her head, and it was so soft. "Rabbits sure are soft, Holling." "Yes, there's nothing softer." Then Holling pulled an apple out of his pocket, along with his pocket knife. Holling cut a section out of the apple and gave it to the rabbit. The rabbit attacked the piece of apple and ate ravenously. There were 3 more cages that contained 1 rabbit in each of them. Holling went to each cage and gave each rabbit a slice of the apple, and the rabbits immediately ate on their apple slice. We walked over to the large cage that was built from the ground up. It was different from the rabbit cages that were raised up from the ground on wooden legs. Inside the large cage was a beautiful blue bird that rested on a long wooden perch. Holling said, "Well, there it is. Let's see if he wants to show off for us today." Suddenly the bird spread out its back feathers into an enormous fan shape. I was so amazed. The chestnut-colored fan had circles that looked like eyes of blue, gold, and black. I exclaimed, "Wow! I've never seen something so pretty on an animal. Look at all the colors. What is this thing?" Holling replied, "It's a peacock, and he sure is proud. That's why he likes to show off his feathers. I think you're the first person to see my peacock. I think he likes you." I said, "Wow, this is nice. I'd like to see this again sometime. Eb, you come on back anytime you want to. I don't have to be here with you. I'm glad you like it. Come on, there's something else I'd like to show you." Holling walked towards the woods, and I followed. A trail appeared after we were about 40 yards into the woods. The trail was worn and went where there were wide spaces between the trees. I figured the deer used the trail as well. A squirrel was about 30 yards ahead of us. It stood right in the middle of the trail and flicked its tail in excitement. The squirrel barked and ran up a tree after we got too close. We must have walked at least 300 yards into the woods when something caught my eye. Through the trees, I saw the sun glisten off a shiny surface. We walked closer and closer, and there it was. A pretty little pond was nestled deep in the woods. The surface of the pond gently rippled in the light breeze, and some autumn leaves blew from the trees and landed softly on the water. I said, "Holling, I never knew there was a pond down in these woods." Holling returned, "Most people don't know about it. It's my pond, and it's my little secret." We approached the pond, and I noticed a wooden bench that was beside the water. Did you make that bench? Holling nodded. Yes, I did, many years ago. We walked over to the bench and stood beside it. Holling reached into his back pocket and pulled out a small bag. Here you go, Eb. It's breadcrumbs. Start throwing them in the water. I need to rest after that rugged walk. Holling sat on the bench and let out a tired sigh. I started throwing the breadcrumbs into the water, and the fish immediately came to the surface and started to eat. Catfish and bluegills. Most were small, but a few of the catfish looked at least 3 or 4 pounds. I said, These fish know the routine. You've done this before, haven't you? Holling smiled. Yeah, more times than I can count. Before you were born, long before. It's peaceful down here. When I was younger, I would sometimes bring a blanket and sleep here by the pond, usually on a warm spring night. I said, Sounds like fun. Thanks for sharing this place with me. I'm glad you like it, replied Holling. And remember, this place is our secret now. It's just for you and me. Okay, Holling, it's just for us.